chair of the Formal Advisory Committee for the Health-Related Institutions. And let's go ahead and call things to order. And let me go ahead and take a quick roll to make sure we have a quorum. If I can remind everybody to put their systems on mute unless you're wanting to say something to cut down on the background noise. So, Jeff Burton. Okay. Starting strong coming out of the gate here. How about Chuck Fox?
Good morning, Mike. I'm here.
Great. Angelica Marin Hill.
Good morning, present.
Okay. I think Lauren is going to be a few minutes late. Jenny Gomez Leon.
I am here.
Okay. Tomas Guajardo.
Morning.
Chris Kavash. Okay. Chris, I think you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. Good morning. I'm here. There we go.
Penny Harkey.
Here.
I'll circle back. Jeff Burton.
Here.
Okay. Dr. Richard Lang.
Present.
Dwayne Morse. Okay. Michael Miller.
Good morning. Here.
Dr. Paula Myrick Short.
I am here.
Okay. I believe that gives us a quorum. Okay, the first thing on the agenda is consideration of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look them over? And is there any questions, concerns, changes recommended? Okay. Circling back for a moment, I see that Dwayne Morris has joined us. Dwayne, good morning.
Good morning.
And I have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes as provided, say aye.
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 Okay. Great, unanimous. Okay, moving right along. So the second or the third, I guess, item on the agenda is the consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the commissioner's 24-25 charges, which of course is associated with the draft report that has been circulated. This is hopefully everybody has the report handy. And with that said, of course, it'd be nice if I brought it up myself. I'd like to open the floor for discussion on the report itself. Penny, you had brought up a good comment earlier, and that was the former report referenced the original formula amounts, in some cases just in passing, but in other cases on the table and so on. And with us using the inflation adjusted 2019 rate, you had mentioned perhaps instead of having 2001 info there, maybe it's 2019 as sort of the base rate. What's the committee's thoughts on that? is there any value in still in sharing both? I mean, effectively show this is where we started.
If I can, I think at the beginning of the discussions this year, we decided we were going to move away from talking about what was and just move forward with where we are.
Okay.
That was my takeaway from the earlier discussion. So I think, being part of this now for, 20 years to say that, I think we need to take a look at where we are and move forward without, I think the past is the past and we need to move forward and focus on that.
Okay. Thoughts from others? I think that was probably pretty consistent with Penny, what you were thinking as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we reference it early on in just the body of the executive summary. We can certainly modify that. And I think also the tables that we have reference that as well. Well, let's, if okay with you, we can sort of walk through the report itself. And, in the executive summary, of course, a lot of it is key Texas facts. Those still need to be updated. Some of which are provided by the AAMC that had not been released as of yet. So the idea would be is I've asked our staff to go ahead and update all of these points so that before December's meeting, we have that information all finalized. The charges and committee recommendations under charge 1, we did shift that wording. We did go into quite a bit of detail on the mission specific support, breaking out sort of the clinical aspects and versus the research, because there are different caps imposed for those two different funding mechanisms. We've lumped together into one bullet that we're recommending that we use the inflation adjusted amount for I&O infrastructure, GME, and research enhancement. Sort of lumps everything all together under that. Is that okay? Is that I didn't really hear any recommendations to break it out separately. Again, it's a common approach to all the formula items for the most part.
Mike, I have a question. In the executive summary, since we are focusing on inflation, should we make it clearer or have a paragraph in there somewhere that talks about, since we are starting with 19, all funding has been flat, just reiterating the fact in that summary that all funding levels have been flat at a time when we are seeing, and I don't know what the statistical situation is, but honestly, the inflation is it's significant right now. So maybe we need to have a focal point on that also to set the stage for the report.
Good comment.
I agree. Makes sense.
Okay.
And not to muddy the water, but to Penny's point, the inflation is becoming a significant issue right now. Should we reconsider our inflationary point that we're recommending for the report?
I think the challenge we run into is there's not enough current data that would allow you to take into account recent developments. So the information that we actually used when we calculated this took everything, I think it was through 20 at best, and then brought it forward. Ed, is that correct?
I believe that the indexes we used were current as of July of 21.
Okay,
21, okay. Okay,
okay,
thank you.
okay. Okay, so we step back to the executive summary. Any other comments regarding the executive summary?
Mike, it's Chris. I do have one comment.
Okay,
So in that blue letter there, the second sentence of that, the way it talks about how HRIs have had to pivot to meet, it just sounds a little bit like we're the only ones in the world, a little bit, I don't know, whiny to me. So I'm wondering if maybe just pivoted or have pivoted or something that's kind of removes that had.
okay.
That's it.
Okay,
Great job.
okay. Any other comments associated with the executive summary? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move forward to the charges and committee recommendations. Again, we had modified that to say the legislature continue the restoration of the per unit rates and fund the INO and infrastructure, GME, and research enhancement formula rates to adjust for inflation using the U.S. city average medical care index applied to the fiscal year 2019 as base.
And
That
here,
is-
maybe we shouldn't, because we don't want to restore, we're taking all of that out and have that more of to adjust for inflation, using the, something about this, reiterating the fact that our rates have been the same and then we are just adjusting for the inflation.
Okay. Okay, we'll try to wordsmith that a bit to that effect. Okay. Is everybody okay? Again, there's a lot of references to the specific sections because everybody's a little bit different here and there. Instead of trying to go into a lot of detail on the mission specifics, are y'all comfortable with those references? Is it of value? There's, we had a table down below that was in last biennium's report related to the mission specific. Should we put in a table along those lines? I don't know if it's worth, one section that effectively refers to 2021, another that's 22, 23, the seed money associated with each of them and so on, or I think when we first did this, it was certainly a point of reference, especially for Southwestern and Galveston, is in that, they weren't asking for 300 million, or Southwestern wasn't asking for 115 million. It really was only, the $14 million difference. And I'm assuming that's somewhat a similar instance in the institutions that came on in 22, 23.
I'd be fine eliminating that table. And there's a suggestion that just says maybe listing. I mean, we've kind of already got it listed in the narrative above. So I'm good either eliminating this table or just providing that list. But I don't know that it's necessary since we've kind of already listed it above and you've given reference points to what they are. But at this point, everybody got flat funded, basically,
Right.
with the seed funding in there.
I would be comfortable with that. And, for those institutions with new mission specifics this time, if there's value, one alternative for the new ones and the ones that are now, I think, in the second cycle. If we wanted to make the point that these are also have been flat funded and performance has not been, an appropriation hasn't been made for the performance driven increase, that could be the content of a table.
Okay,
Just like, the other general formula rates have not been kept up with.
okay. Other thoughts? Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. We did, again, the table down below that references the 24-25 biennium dollars does reference back to 2000, 2001. I think there was a recommendation to modify that table so that we're comparing it to 2019. Is everybody okay with making that change?
It'd be the 2020, 2021, and then you'd have, so you'd show that it'd be evident that that rate was flat.
Right. Okay. We can definitely make that change. Other items in that section, any recommendations for change? This certainly isn't a going, gone situation. This is going to be a sort of a living document between now and certainly next meeting.
Mike, can I come back to that previous graph or table for just a second and just solicit y'all's opinion? I certainly agree with what everybody said about not focusing on the past and moving forward from 2019. I guess my only question or / concern is obviously the 24-25 looks like it's a huge increase over 2022, 23, and without a reference to know that it's really historically not that big, especially compared to 20 years ago. I mean, is there any concern that they'll look at that and say, gosh, that's just such a big increase, and some reluctance to accept the recommendation? What are y'all's thoughts? So Penny, obviously, and it's kind of thing I certainly agree with what everybody said. I'm just wondering whether at least put it in that context. Again, it may confuse it. It may take us back to where we don't want to go, or it may provide a reference. So what do y'all think?
Well, I have to say that was certainly the point of doing it the last time.
Yeah.
Was, not to show this $430 million increase in funding.
Yeah.
Or at least not to appear that way, because we were going from non-formula to formula.
But Dr. Lang, you're talking about the chart that has I&O, E&G, research enhancement, and GME in it, right?
Right. That one in particular. Right. I mean, when you look at the difference, the percent change from 24, 25 over 22, 23, you think that's 16%. That's huge. I mean, for the legislature. And you look back and say, well, wait a minute, it's really not any different than it was in 2000. So without that context, I'm not sure that that would drive that point home. And that's my only question. And obviously I'll defer to whatever the recommendations and wisdom of the group is. I just throw it out there.
I think that has some, I think you have a point there, because it does, otherwise it sure looks like we're greedy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I agree. I think it adds very good perspective. Just
Okay,
because and the perspective is that you're right. We're still not even at that point to being 2,000. So
Yeah, I think then the narrative can certainly drive the point home that we're focused on inflationary growth, but the chart adds that perspective that this is what we've lost and we've just been trying to been making up the ground, but we're focused on the ground that we lost just from the last session.
okay. So this is the table that, again, has the individual rates. So we would use 2000, 2001 as sort of the anchor, but as far as for comparison purposes, and then we move forward from 2020, 21 to forward. Is that what I'm hearing? Again, we
Yeah,
can
almost striking out that middle column that has the 2001 to 2023, almost
Right.
strike out that column and just have the change from 22 to 24.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think the what's going to become evident, since this is the rate, we'll see a much different percentage change between the total fund amount in the next table versus the rate increases. So, okay, well, we'll put that table together, and we'll of course run it past the committee for vetting purposes, and then we'll get that inserted. Okay. Any other items in that respect? I mean, the attachments of obviously are all really background minutes and the charges and so on. Before I move on to charge 2, I guess there's not at this stage from charge 1 forward any need to call for a vote or anything. Obviously, we still have some wordsmithing to do and some adjustment to do. Ed, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So on charge 2, which deals with the study and make recommendations for the appropriate INO formula weights. This one in particular is associated with allied health. I didn't know, Lauren, if you or Jenny, if we've made any progress. We talked about potentially deferring it to the next bienniums committee. I didn't know if maybe y'all made any progress in the meantime.
No, and my apologies for joining late today, but I think you're exactly right. We're still reviewing it, and so I talked to Jenny about it or emailed with her, and we both kind of agreed that at this point, I think leaving the wording as is and then following up, next interim with the next FAC with a more formal, solid recommendation would be the appropriate place to make a written comment about the allied health weight.
Okay. So with that said, is everyone comfortable just leaving, again, as stated in the report, the committee recommends no changes to the weights assigned to the current programs? Okay, can
Yes.
I have a motion to that?
So moved.
Moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, we will leave that as is for charge 2. Charge 3, I think we had already addressed. So it does state what we had agreed to in the previous meeting, where there would be no changes for the inclusion and weight of specialty programs in the INO formula. moving to charge 4. Consideration and discussion of formula funding for the planned Doctor of Podiatric Medicine degree. Michael, if I could get you to update the group.
All right, thank you. Well, I sent out the white paper to the work group, and Mike, I appreciate you sending it out to the larger group. And Mike caught a big issue, and I'll give him credit for this. And I need fresh eyes, and accountants need other accountants, right? So when we're doing our pro forma, we included our benefits in the calculation, which, benefits, as everyone knows, is paid from a separate funding source. And so that affected the weight a bit. But given that chance to reevaluate the pro forma in its entirety, there were some things that we had overlooked internally, and that was some growth factors for salaries and adjusted for inflation. So we made some minor adjustments there. But when you take those things into consideration, it didn't change the weight much. And so we're not talking about a significant change in what the working group was looking at. But I do have Richard Wilson, who's running my spreadsheets, because I find it difficult to walk and chew gum at this, sometimes. And so, Richard, can I share screens? Because I wanted to kind of walk the larger group down the pro forma that we looked at and discussed as a work group. Is Richard able to share?
Let me try.
Yep.
There. Can everybody see the screen?
So I find it easy to kind of start here, and really what we were focused on is taking a look at a lot of the direct and indirect costs going into the program. What is this going to cost the institution? And we looked at instructional cost, academic support, student services as those kind of things that are supporting the program. But above that, we also looked at total faculty salaries. Richard, can you? Yeah, so those are, when we look at what's going to be supporting the program, the actual, who's going to be delivering the curriculum, this is the faculty base that we're looking at maturing in that year 4, in year 2026. So again, with a little bit of history and how I know Senator Ratliff kind of pulled things together when the initial formulas looked at, we just looked at what's your total GR, what's the total enrollment, and kind of backed into an algebra equation. And that's sort of what we did here, was to take a look at our total direct cost, indirect cost supporting the programs, and back into a weight. And as you can see, we backed into a student weight of 4.761. And again, this is the one that was adjusted. Richard, you want to show the work group kind of what we looked at initially to kind of show the difference in the swing? So as I was mentioning before, when we calculated the benefits, and didn't adjust for inflation, the weight was 4.770. So let's go back to the November 16th. So this is what we're looking at here. We baked in a market salary adjustment of 3% over the weekend, and took a look at what we were looking at for the average inflationary cost of 2.7% for the other, what I call indirect cost. You have the white paper. I've summed it up the best I think, as far as readability is concerned, and kind of given a synopsis of just the numbers and how we calculated into the weights. Does anybody have any questions about what specifically we talked about? I can go into detail. We had our dean involved in the work group discussion. I appreciate the conversation Dr. Lang had with our dean regarding how the curriculum is going to be delivered. The challenges that we have as far as setting up our residency practices and things of that nature. So we had some in-depth discussion, and some things that came out of that is that this is a young program. It's the only one in Texas. It's the second public in the U.S. So I think, as a starting point, this is a fairly close estimate on what we feel our costs are going to be moving forward once that program matures in 2026. So I'm going to just stop there, and we can walk through this in detail or talk about the white paper specifically if anybody had any questions.
Well, Michael, I did have, I guess, one question to follow up on what I had raised earlier, and that was tuition and the role, the amount of tuition you're projecting per student, and what you see that as factoring in as offset to the costs.
Yeah, Richard, can you scroll up and show where we're factoring in there? So this is our tuition that we're calculating. A lot of these things, I think some of these things that are going to be offsetting are going to be in what we haven't charged to the weight. There's some overhead charges that we just decided we were not going to put into this right now. And so I could put that in there, but I don't think I should at this point, directly to your point, that's really what those dollars of that revenue is going to support, is some of that overhead cost.
The overhead is here at the bottom, and this has been updated to what's our on-campus rate for instruction that's effective for FY 21 through 24. And this overhead projection calculated on the direct cost is removed from, it's backed out from this
Calculation.
Right.
Does that help address your question, Mike?
Yeah, it
Or
does.
do I need to do some more homework for you?
Well, I guess, again, I was curious what y'all were projecting your annual tuition would be for a student. Is it $15,000 a head per
Richard,
year?
I think we've got that in the tab somewhere, don't we? The detail.
That would be the same as that we currently charge for our MD students, is what we
11
as a default for now.
Okay.
So
and Mike, I'll be completely honest. We have not finalized that dollar amount, and
Sure.
and will soon, because it's got to go to the regents for approval in February. So between now and February, that number is going to be buttoned up.
Right. Yeah, we have historically looked at, I&O as partially funding some of the overhead, frankly, because when we had originally developed the formula, the 2001, it actually rolled in the line item appropriations for general admin and institutional support. So we've always determined that there was a percentage of that formula that effectively was supposed to cover central admin. Now, the important other piece of that is the recognition that we do have an infrastructure formula as well. So we need to be careful not to include the facility element of what is typically in the I&O rate, the F&A rate.
You're right, Mike, and that's why for right now we have excluded all of what I consider that overhead rate out of that at this point.
Right.
I have another revenue-related question. Do you think there'd be any expectation that we include at least a small amount of donor gifts in the revenue, or the opposite, if we don't happen to know in this situation that those would be available?
Chris, at this point, we haven't seen any donor gifts, and we're bumping on about 9 months before we begin the program. So I wouldn't say it wouldn't be out of the question in the out years. But in the within the first year, I'd say no. So yes, we definitely can add a line in there for revenue. And I believe it's in there. I think it's just hidden right now with zeros at this point.
That's correct.
Yeah. You want to open that up?
Yeah. Right here.
Yeah, there we go. Grants and contracts. Okay.
Yeah.
Same with endowments. No endowments at this point. So
at this point, no.
Great. Great to see that you considered it and scoped it out. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. And this is Jenny. I don't know that I have anything really to offer in terms of where we need to go, but I think what we're talking about is, I think some of the hurdles that we were faced with the allied health rate, right? In that the formula, whether it's a weight or the rate, was never intended to fully cover all of the costs. So I just think that we need to be careful on accepting this weight, because even though it's a backed into weight, yes, you've got some tuition in here, and yes, you've got overhead that could be arbitrarily, defined, institution per institution on what you're applying here. If we're backing into a rate or a weight that is covering all of our costs, I don't know how easily that's going to be accepted.
Well, and Jenny, to your point, and I agree 100%. If you take a look at the out years, the weight doesn't fully cover all of our costs. I mean, as the program begins to, I guess, fully mature at some point, the weight becomes a diminishing factor in our total costs, and that's where you see where those. But if you were to cover 100% of your costs, let's say in 2027, you should receive a weight of 4.8, or at least just hypothetically in the hypothesis that we're doing here. So I agree with that. So at some point, I just had to draw the line and say, where is our mature year? And I would just tag that at, the graduating class after 4 years. That's what the weight looks at. So I agree with you that the weight shouldn't cover all of your costs. It'd become a very dangerous game if we did that. And that's why we have it shown out there in the out years, that as costs continue to increase, the weight remains flat, if you will, at 2026.
So Mike, Rick Lang, two things. One is I don't think that the weight should be higher than for medical education. It's a little bit above it right now.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that, Dr. Lang.
Okay, so I wouldn't tag it. I do think, we had looked at it. I met with your dean. I do think that this program is more similar than dissimilar than medical education. But I would want to, again, we're trying to make it education affordable. You can adjust that based upon what your tuition is, and we certainly want to make sure that if it's going to get the same rate as a medical education, as the tuition closely aligns with it. I wouldn't want to see this being a $40,000 or $50,000 tuition if you're getting the same rate as med ed.
No, sir, you won't. And I just don't want to show my cards, because, those are discussions close to our vest right now. But I will say that when the final tuition numbers come out, they're going to be very closely aligned to what our current medical student tuition is at this point. And through the report, we do recommend that the weight itself does not, and to what Mike's earlier point was, is that the weight remains equal to that of a medical student, and not a higher weight. And in addition to that, we're also recommending that whatever dollars that are associated with this are new dollars to the formula, so there isn't a disruption in current levels of support to the other to the rest of the INO formula.
Okay, any other questions, thoughts from other committee members?
So might not to steal your thunder, but I hadn't heard anything. So let me ask. I put this white paper in a form that could easily, I guess, be extracted and put into the main report. I guess I wanted to ask the committee how they wanted to see the report embedded in the main report that were looked at, that you had sent out. Does this report need to be an appendix to this, to the main report, or can we include it in the same main body of it?
My general thoughts would be to add it as an appendix, but that's my 2 cents.
I think it'd be the easiest.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. I think that's what we did with mission specific last go around, Mike.
Okay.
Okay, so what I will do is update and tweak the figures in the white paper to reflect this revised draft November 16th that we're looking at right here. It's just to tweak the numbers a bit, and then I'll send that to you, Mike.
Okay.
Okay.
If you will also send it to Ed and Emily?
Oh, yes, I'll send it to the coordinating board as well.
Okay, with that, thank you for Michael for the update. Do we have a motion to accept that rate?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions regarding this? So we'll be recommending the use of the medical school rate for podiatry. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. We will move forward with that.
And thank you for your time, the work group. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And to the committee.
Okay. So we will adjust the report to reflect this decision. Okay. Moving right along. Boy, we're taking much longer today. Who knew? Planning for subsequent meetings. The next scheduled meeting is for Tuesday, December 7th at 10 a.m. If need be, we would go to January 4th. I don't think we've done that in a number of bienniums. Boy, I'd hate to have that one saddled on me. So it's we will certainly make that decision on the 7th, whether that's required. Really, it's a matter of, I think, hammering out this report between now and the meeting time. So hopefully it's just a ratification of the report itself. We'll go ahead and make edits to it and circulate it to the committee for wordsmithing and any other comments. Before we close, any thoughts from the committee members or concerns?
Like, I was hoping for some special sessions, after this. So it's gonna be really disappointing if we end early.
Well, we can certainly move into the 22. It's what the heck? What's a special January session? Okay. Well, hearing no comments, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Lang, okay. And
Second.
okay, thanks, Mike. And with that, I'm assuming everybody's in favor of adjourning. So we will do so. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
See you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.